do for Startup Grind when we welcome our guest is that we all stand up and we give them a big cheer like it's, you know, Bono or Obama showing up or whoever. So we're going to practice this just one time, okay? So we've got to get this right. So on the count of three, I want everybody to stand up and cheer like your favorite movie star just walked in. 1, 2, 3.
That was awkward. I'm inspired by things like email and things that work. Email is like something that the tech industry likes to rip apart. But I think it's the best thing that ever happened to technology. Everybody uses it. There's no adoption curve. Everyone has an email address. Like that to me is a beautiful thing. If every technology could be that pervasive, like technologists would be much happier. I'm inspired by things like that, or things like paper clips or staplers, or pens and paper. Like, how can we make things that are so simple that just work, that serve a purpose, and do just a few things, but do those things really well? 37 Signals started in 1999. 1999 to roughly 2005. We've been doing a bunch of different things. We did the big projects for a while, then we did some smaller projects, and 2000, the recession hit, and we started doing smaller projects, and things started picking up again, and we started getting really busy, and that's why we actually built Basecamp, which is what we do today, because we needed a better way to manage our client projects. We were using email, which is what most people use, to send stuff back and forth. We just felt like we were out of control and it wasn't organized. And so we built that, not knowing that that's where we'd end up. We just built it for ourselves and threw it out there to see if other people would use it, and it turned out that a year later it was doing better than our web design business. So we stopped doing web design and started doing software full time. Well, since about 2000, we've been blogging, which is kind of when that started too, about the industry, about web designers, about web design, about clients, about design, about technology, about our opinions on building a company, and we were pretty opinionated and still are. Less opinionated these days than I think we used to be. Gotten a little bit older. But we had all these opinions, and people just started paying attention, because when you have opinions, people hear them, and they either love you or they hate you, and they fight about it, and that's the internet. Basically. So we started building this audience, small audience, maybe a few hundred people and maybe a couple thousand people. And by the time we launched Basecamp in 2005, or 2004, we had maybe like a few thousand people reading our blog regularly. And we just announced the product on the blog. And the blog was read by web designers mostly. We were a web design shop. We built Basecamp for us. And so the audience that we had was our potential customer base too. So it was a really good fit there. The nice thing about Basecamp is that since it's collaborative in nature, no one uses it on their own, so they have to invite other people to use it with them, and then the word spreads, and organically it's just grown. I'm not a big hockey stick kind of guy. I just like steady growth over time, and that's pretty much how Basecamp's been. It's just nice and steady over time, and I feel like that's my kind of growth. That's what I'm interested in. That's what worked out well for us. Jeff Bezos from Amazon.com bought a small piece of 37 Signals in 2006. We did it with Jeff because Jeff's a very long-term thinker. He's worth $13 billion. He doesn't need a few million from us, sort of thing, to survive. So he's not interested in pushing us to get out or anything like that. He has no control over that. He can't push us in those directions. That's not why we worked with him. That's not why he wanted to work with us. He just really believes in the company a lot. He likes what we're doing. We like him a lot. He's a brilliant guy, gives us great advice whenever we need it. And it was just a good fit, especially because he's a long-term guy and we're long-term guys. I'd like to be in this business for forever, Yeah. And that's the kind of thinker that he is. So I think a lot of investors also have very short, not very short, but much shorter time horizons, 3 to 5 years, something like that, maybe a little bit longer these days. And I just don't want to be on someone else's schedule. We use software like everyone else does, and we get frustrated by things that are complicated and slow and hard to maintain and hard to use and hard to understand. And I wouldn't want to give someone something else that made things complicated for them, because I wouldn't want something to be complicated for me either. It's just it's a respect thing, I think, more than anything. I feel like software that's really complex is really disrespectful and arrogant. And that to me is not an interesting way to be or thing to be. you can't really critique things that you don't understand. And it's very easy to look at something and go, that could be better. But I don't know the history behind it. I don't know the pressures and the forces that made it the way it was. I don't know why it turned out this way. Maybe this is the best design given the constraints. Or, So I'm very careful about that. And I actually don't like that about designers. And I used to be like this, so I feel like I can talk about it. Where designers are always like, that sucks, I could do better than that. That sucks, I could do that in the weekend or whatever. And they like to rip down other designs, like that's, American Airlines website sucks. Well, you don't understand what happens there. Like, I don't know why it is the way it is. Maybe there's very good reasons, and maybe there is no good reason. I don't know. But let's not assume that we know what goes on behind closed doors in businesses and who's making the rules and who's doing what and whatever. So I've become a lot more forgiving there. And I'm more interested in learning why things are the way they are. So when I see something that I think could be better, I want to know about it before I judge it. And that's sort of where I'm at these days. I'm very curious about why things are designed the way they are, more so than I can make that better. My mentors are usually people I've never met. Like I'm just a big fan of the way Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger think. They're very long-term thinkers, very value-based, very simple. I just like that approach versus like people who are chasing this fad over that fad and this trend over that trend. So I just like long-term, sound kind of thinkers. And so I try not to read books in my own industry though, because I feel like there's already like so much. It's a kind of a big echo chamber to begin with, and you hear a lot of the same things. So I'm more interested in like biographies of like Thomas Jefferson or something, or reading something about some historical event, or like that's kind of stuff's more interesting to me than modern day thinking. We're not focused on social and things like that, because that to me in the business sense it doesn't make sense to me. Now I might be missing the boat completely, but it's not something that we need at 37 Signals, so we don't build it. We only build things that we need for ourselves too, right. And then we know that if we need it, so do hundreds of thousands of other people just like us. We want to build things that are truly useful and not cool, which doesn't make us the coolest company in some ways. We're always about useful over cool. Hopefully we can make things fun, cool also, but it's got to be useful first. As you release more and more products, you build up more and more obligations to the future forever. And it becomes very difficult to then do new things because you end up occupying yourself with all these things that you've promised that you'll do forever, kind of. And so it's difficult then to change and to like launch. Like for example, I've got like 2 or 3 product ideas I'd like to do, but that means like we'd have like 8 products, and we can't support 8 products. So, and we could, if we stopped developing one, what would that mean to our customers who rely on it? So there's some really interesting challenges. So the lesson is that I'm learning now, late, is that you have to be so careful about putting things out in the world that people depend on if you care, because you've got to take care of that thing. It's kind of like having a kid. Like up until they're 18, you're kind of like, you're responsible. So